Hello my darling friends, and welcome back to my channel. I have been inspired by my most recent read. So we're gonna talk about some very badass women characters in some books that I have read. All of these books are fantasy books, and I just wanted to share some of these books with you all so that if you're like me and you're inspired by Women's History Month and by National Women's Day and just, you know, by women, you can go ahead and read some of these and be inspired even more and just in complete awe of these incredible women characters. So without further ado, let's jump on in. The first book that I want to chat about and the first character that I want to chat about is Shiala from Black Sun. So Black Sun in general has a wonderfully diverse cast of characters, but Shiala is incredible. And correct me if I'm wrong, I looked up how to pronounce it on Goodreads and I believe it's Shiala. I'm not sure if you put like X to the X or not, but if you've read this book, one of our main characters is Shiala. And so she is incredible. I am obsessed with her. If you are looking for a ship's captain, woman in a highly male field, pansexual, incredibly beautiful, magical, mysterious, powerful, warrior-ish kind of a character, then Shiala is the one for you. I have like the hugest crush on her. She is incredible. She is amazing. And she has such a great story in this book. We follow her as she goes on this quest that she thinks is just kind of like a normal everyday whatever. I'm gonna have to bring these spoils from this land to this land for this ship's trader, blah, 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 blah. And she just gets wrapped up in something that is so much bigger than she. And yeah, really, really, really great character. The minute I started reading her story and her perspective in this book, I just was mind blown. That said, we also have Naranpa in this book as well, who is another one of our characters, who I also really, really like. She grows up from a little bit of a rough background and is graced with an opportunity that is of high respect in her society. So we follow her as she goes through her experience, and not only is she a badass, very smart, very intelligent, very politically apt, but her sexuality is not just absolutely completely straight. So Naranpa has a wonderful connection with this person who is non-binary, and their name is Iktan, and really we just have a great, like I said, great set of diversity and great set of powerful, intriguing, interesting, important women's characters in this book. The next book and character that I would like to talk about is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi, and our character of interest is Zilly. Zilly is a young girl who has been trying to learn the ways of magic, and she has been marked by magic by the existence of her shockingly white hair. In this society, people with magic are looked down upon and discriminated against in the extreme. So we follow Zilly with her very spunky, rebellious, very kick-ass character. I personally absolutely adore her. We see her in the beginning with this very strong exterior, and we see her slowly begin to delve more into her feelings. This is a great story. I would liken this story with the sort of like chosen one trope to be sort of like Harry Potter, but like 1,000 times better with much more action and a much more diverse storyline and world. So if you are looking for a younger character who is, like I said, still has her flaws, is pretty spunky, pretty sassy, pretty untrusting, but then is just like, she just grows so much, this is the one for you. The next book that I want to talk about actually has 3 characters that I adore, but 2 of them in particular are just wonderful. And that is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. We follow 3 different perspectives in this book. We follow Damaya, Cynate, and Essen. And my 2 favorite women characters are Cyanate and Essen. So basically, Cyanate is this young woman who has this power that is being harnessed by the government. She has these sort of like earth-moving, earth-bending kind of powers. And the government of the society is training her into a sort of weapon while also discriminating against her. And we also have Essen, who is a mother who has experienced tragic loss in her life and is on a quest to find her daughter. This story, number one, is just one of the best fantasy series I've ever read in my life. But number two, the extreme reality of emotion that these women feel and experience while also being just badass is incredible. I have never felt so much love and pain for someone while also being just so in awe of who they are. I never felt bad for these women. I felt achingly for them, and also just so incredibly impressed and inspired by their stories and their experiences in this book. It is a fantasy story. It is a high fantasy story. Technically, it is actually a series of 3 different books, and I just can't say enough good things about this series. If you have not read anything by N.K. Jemisin, if you have not read the Broken Earth trilogy, you must. You must, you must. And maybe you'll fall in love with Cyanate and Essen as well. Alrighty, the next book and character that I want to talk about is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. And our main character in this that I would like to talk about is Vasilisa, or Vasya. So Vasya is, we follow her throughout her life in this story. So this story has a lot of passage of time. It is an old Russian folklore inspired story. We have lots of ghosts and gods and spirits and cold weather, icy, scary kinds of gods and lords and things like that. And Vasya grows up in this wintry landscape of Russia, and we follow her as she is an extremely outspoken, spunky, strange child, and she grows into her powers and into her knowledge, and we watch her grow up and become so incredibly inspiring. She's so brave. She is like what I would consider to be like true bravery and true goodness. She wants goodness for people. She is just such a good person. She kind of has the sort of kick-ass princess sort of a vibe, even though she's not a princess. So anyway, also a great read if you're looking for something that is going to be a little bit cold and wintry vibes. So I know we're ending the cold season. We are into the springtime here now, but still an absolutely great read for a great inspiring young woman character. All right, and lastly, I want to talk about the Shattered Realms series. So basically there are many characters in this story, and there are many female characters in this story, and most of the women's characters in this story are really badass. In particular though, I would like to talk about Lys. Lys does not have a huge part to play in the first book of the Shattered Realms series, but in the later books, she becomes extremely, extremely important. I'm not going to tell you too much about her because, again, it's a series and I don't want to give anything away, but if you are looking for a story where we have a warrior, where we have someone who is tall, broad shoulders, strong, like physically strong, a sort of different kind of woman than the like petite, cute little princess trope that is so commonly displayed, especially in fantasy books, this is the one for you. We have a great discussion around her strength and her role in a man's world. We have an entire nation of people in this book that are a matriarch and are ruled by women, and women are the most respected in that world. So I would absolutely recommend that you read this. I can't recommend this book and this story enough, this entire series. Basically, Lys is a badass, Jenna is a badass, Celestine is pretty cool. And I mean, it just goes on from there. We just have so many great women's characters in this book. So, and in this series. So if you're into badass warrior with a lot of power, who's physically like very training, it's a very like training oriented kind of a story and person, this is the one for you. And Liz is the one for you. Just wait for her. She comes in the second book. Just wait for her because she's great. All right, everybody, that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any recommendations for me when it comes to badass women's characters, please let me know. I am all for it. I've just been so inspired recently by reading these great stories, especially fantasy stories that are more focused on women's stories. There's a little bit of an issue in the fantasy world, especially older fantasy, where most high fantasy is either written by men or has the sort of damsel in distress trope too much throughout the story. So I'm really excited to be seeing more strong women's characters coming out through all of these books, especially newer books. So if you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. Like I said, comment your favorite heroines and strong women's characters down below, and subscribe and join the family if you're interested in more videos about books. And mostly about fantasy. All right, everyone, I will see you in the next one. Goodbye!